kind of looks like a lollipop. So it's a circle right in the middle of the top with a road going straight out, the Big Pine Death Valley Road. So that's called the Crater Mine, and that mine get transferred from the BLM to Death Valley National Park. And then the other big parcel of land is called the Bowling Alley, which is at the very southern end of the park. So previously, Death Valley ended, there was a small gap, and then there was Fort Irwin down there. There's this really long strip, which is why people called it the Bowling Alley. And apparently ecosystems don't work really well in pieces of land that just run like this really long. And so BLM had a tough time managing it because they couldn't control anything above them, anything below them. There weren't a lot of features for them to really be all that concerned about. So eventually they decided it'd be easier just to transfer it over to the National Park Service, and so that came over as well. So now we run right up to the military base there. In addition to the new acreage, they also converted proposed wilderness in Death Valley to designated wilderness in Death Valley. So that's a technical term. We were already managing it as wilderness, but what it means is there's 88,000 acres out there on some of the ridge tops and things like that that now nobody can ever build anything on, and they're just a little bit more protected than they would have been before. I mentioned that increased our total acreage to 3.4 million acres, and we're at 93% wilderness now as a park as a whole. Two other fun little facts about it is that it actually designated a wild and scenic river in Death Valley National Park. So I think that made Mike happier than anybody, because now he can go tell, like, we've got everything any park has, we now have, including a wild and scenic river. And that's Surprise Canyon. So Surprise Canyon you get to from Panamint Valley, where you park your car is actually BLM, and then you hike up along the creek bed into Death Valley, then you can continue up to Panamint City. The other change is kind of technical in nature, but a lot of you will probably eventually be grateful for, at least all of us will eventually be grateful for, is there's a spot in the park near Rogers Peak and Telescope Peak called Mormon Peak, and that is where our AT&T tower is. So if you're over in the Furnace Creek area, and if you use internet or your phone, whether that's a landline or a cell phone, if you do anything, all that communication is relayed from the Furnace Creek area up to Mormon Peak, where then it's relayed out to actual civilization. That was a very old system there, and when it was put in and wilderness was designated in that area, they forgot to say, oh wait, don't make that repeater tower wilderness. You're not allowed to have IT infrastructure wilderness. And so for years, we were out of compliance saying we've got this tower sitting in wilderness, we're not about to go rip out the phone system and all telecommunications for the park. The Dingle Act corrected that and made it so that that acre around it is now non-wilderness. The good news is now AT&T is willing to go invest in it again, because forever they said we don't want to go pour money into something that might be ripped out at a moment's notice. And what's actually really good news is IT stuff has improved so much over the years that now a newer, better system is even smaller and less visually intrusive than it would have been before. So I'm not sure when all those changes will take place, but eventually, like internet and things like that should improve within the park. Again, I know a lot of us come out here to disconnect from the internet, but I'm willing to bet all of you still own a cell phone and at times do want to make a phone call. So if you're over in the main valley, it should improve that in the years to come. So those are my general updates. I think we're now ready for Q&A. So Mike, do you have any, there he is. Closing remarks you want to say before we just open it up for Q&A?
No, let's not answer questions until people get really bored and go home.
Okay.